Yo ho ho, welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're keeping well. So today I'm going to be talking you through my spring TBR. These are books that I am aiming to read over the next 2 to 3 months, and I haven't gone overboard with it. I've kept it quite realistic. I'm currently on track with both my Storygraph and Goodreads reading goals and my page goals for the year. So I kind of want to keep up that momentum, and I didn't want to over encumber myself with books, but these are the ones that I'm absolutely reading this season. So I started using my library again quite recently. I had been locked out of my library account for the last 2 years because they upgraded their online system, and ever since then I hadn't been able to access my account, but I got that all sorted out a couple of weeks ago. So naturally I had to hoard up on books like these books here, all library books. I've got more down here next to me. I have just gone a bit overboard, and I currently have 2 on order that I want to read this spring. The first one is Convenience Store Woman by Saika Murata. This is about a 36-year-old woman who works in a convenience store and has been for the last 18 years of her life. And her family initially were really happy when she got the job because she was supporting herself through college, she was getting out of the house. But when they realise that she's going to stay there, they feel like she's wasting her life and that she should be focusing on getting a husband and having a baby and getting on with that side of life at the age of 36. And she doesn't really have any problem. She doesn't see why people make such a big deal about the fact that she's working in a convenience store part-time. And naturally, she encounters a lot of different co-workers over the years. And it's not until she meets one particular co-worker who kind of shakes things up in her life and makes her a bit more introspective about what she wants and where she wants to go in life and all that type of thing. I've heard numerous great things about this book, so I'm really excited to get into it, and it should be a fast read because I believe it's just over 150 pages or so. But yeah, really looking forward to getting my hands on that. The second book that I've ordered in from the library is Motherthing by Ainsley Hogarth. This is a dysfunctional domestic horror novel about a couple who are forced to move back in with the husband's mother as she's very ill, and primarily it's the wife who's going to be looking after her, and she has this romanticized idea that she's going to be able to bond with her mother-in-law finally, and she's going to have a replacement for her own mother because she's always just been searching for a motherly connection with someone. Little does she know her mother-in-law isn't actually the right woman for that type of relationship. She's very cold, she's cruel, and ultimately she ends up taking her own life at the very start of the story. And then the husband starts to believe that the house is being haunted by the spirit of his mother, and the wife has to witness his kind of downfall into the same sort of depressive disorder that the mother had had. And she's trying to figure out, is the house haunted? Is it not? Is this just a psychological thing? It sounds really interesting. It sounds like it's going to be quite funny too. I've seen a lot of reviews saying that it's very satirical. It's one of those books that you don't take super seriously. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting this. Now to get on to my actual TBR that I have with me. The first one up is How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This is going to be the second novel of his that I've read. The first one was The Final Girl Support Group, and I actually really enjoyed that. I know a lot of people who were fans of his prior to that book coming out say that that was one of his kind of weaker works, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. It was just a fun ride, I could just turn off my brain and enjoy the journey. This is about a woman who is estranged from her family. She's gone off, started her career, she has a child, and she gets notified that her parents have passed away suddenly in a car accident, and she's forced to go back to her hometown and deal with the house that they have there. But not only that, she has to deal with her estranged brother and just basically deal with her past. So what I know about this is that the mother who passed away was a doll hoarder. She made puppets and dolls and accumulated a lot of them. And what I hear from other people's reviews is that some of these dolls may have a mind of their own and like moving around by themselves. Yeah, it should be a nice bit of childhood trauma to enjoy. Next, I have A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. This is about a woman who is a food critic. She loves all things food, blogging about food, reviewing food. She is telling us her life story, but she's actually in prison while she's doing it. and it jumps back and forth in time between her current timeline and the events that led up to her incarceration. Reading about this and hearing some reviews is that it is a food-related crime, so I'm expecting this to be really disturbing. It's one of those like nasty, dirty little literary fiction novels, and I just can't get enough of those recently. I feel like 2023 is the year that I become a hardcore literary fiction girly. Seriously, some of the most twisted books I've ever read are literary fiction. So really looking forward to getting into this. The next book that I have is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is going to be the first Jane Austen book that I ever read. I always said like I would never read her, but over the years I've kind of gone back on my words, and I do want to go and explore certain authors and genres that I may not have taken a liking to a couple of years ago, just to see how things fare with me now. This is a book that has been recommended to me multiple times. This is a gothic coming of age story. It follows our main character, Catherine, as she is on her journey to not only just find herself, but she's also on her journey into womanhood and high society. And she's a bit of a tomboy and all that sort of thing, so I imagine she's going to find it to be a bit of a difficult transition, but I'm hoping to really enjoy this based on like the gothic aspects, because like Catherine and I have this in common. We like reading gothic stories, and particularly Anne Radcliffe. So yeah, I mean, like if I already have that in common with the main character, I feel like we're going to be best mates. Next up, I have another literary fiction dirty little gem. It is the Doloriad by Missouri Williams. This is about a family who have survived the apocalyptic event that has wiped out most of humanity, and for all they know, they believe they're the only ones left alive in the world. So naturally, if you are the only persons left alive in the world, you tend to think that maybe you should start repopulating the world, and this is what this family starts to do. So their family tree is quite interesting from what I hear. But our main character in this is Dolores. She is the result of incestual breeding. She was born with no legs, and apparently she's quite morbidly obese, but she is being brought through the forest around the town or campsite that her family have been living in as the main leader of the family, the mother. She believes that there might be an encampment with other people at the other side of this forest. Her mother wants her to offer herself as like a bride, and it's very kind of like ye old misogyny type thing. It just sounds really bonkers, but everyone that I've seen who has like similar reading tastes to me has really enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, I'm expecting this to be disturbing as hell, but also I can't wait. Next, I have The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. This is the story of a young orphan biracial girl who's living in this very religious town called Bethel that's led by a religious leader who is referred to as the Prophet. And the Prophet has said that the woods around the town are forbidden and no one is to go and venture into them. But ultimately, our main character ends up wandering through the woods where she discovers 4 witches and they bestow a gift on her. I'm expecting this to be a really decent read. I've seen it do the rounds on Instagram and TikTok, and I have seen a few negative reviews of it, but it's more so highlighting the fact that some people didn't really gel well with the author's writing style and not actually against the story itself. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to have a lot of social commentary to it that is very relevant to today's society. And yeah, I know that the author is actually working on a sequel to this, so this may become a series. So again, more reasons to read it, to have something to look forward to in the future. Next up, I have another classic that I've been meaning to read for absolute years. It's Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. So this is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition version, and do you know what? I went off the Penguin Classics there a good while ago because I was like, oh, they're just so overpriced and blah, blah, blah. But I got sucked back in at some point last year, and I think it's because the font in this is just really nice. Like, it's just nice and relaxing on the eyes. It's like quite big, but not like super big. I still have my gripe of the deckled edges though. Still hate them. Anyway, more about the book now. So this follows a young boy called Pip who is an orphan. It follows him from childhood into adulthood when he is a blacksmith apprentice. But ultimately something happens and he becomes the beneficiary of a big fortune, and this naturally changes the course of his life, and he's able to enter high society, but we don't know who this benefactor was. So yeah, like that's pretty much all I know about it. What I'm most excited about when reading this is finally being introduced to the iconic character of Miss Havisham. I've just been so curious because my only reference for the story of Great Expectations is the South Park parody, and to be honest, I don't know how true that was to the literary works. Now, I have heard it referred to as Shite Expectations, so I'm hoping that that won't be my own personal experience. Then I have Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. This is the story of a woman who believes that she is slowly but surely turning into a dog. And from what I know about the plot, it's that she has a husband, and I believe she also has either a newborn baby or a young baby, and she may actually just be experiencing kind of postnatal depression. Again, it's a literary fiction, so it's probably going to be quite dark. I've seen nothing but great reviews about this as well. Hopefully I'll fly through it too, because this is like a library copy, but the font in it is so big. I just love that. I feel like I'm halfway through it already. And then finally, the last book on my spring TBR is The Last House on Needless Street by Katrina Ward. I actually have 2 Katrina Ward books out from the library at the moment. I have this, and I also have Little Eve, which is somewhere there in that stack. And I really didn't know which to read first, because people often say that the first book that you read of a new to you author is usually your favourite. So I was like, oh my god, decisions. And Little Eve sounds class as well. But because I'm on this like haunted house kick at the moment, I decided that we'll go with The Last House on Needless Street. So I don't know a whole heap about the story, but what I do know is that it centres around the plot of children who have gone missing. So there are multiple children from this town that have gone missing over the last couple, I don't know if it's the months or years, but there is a man who lives in the last house on Needless Street, and it's all boarded up, and I believe he lives in this house with his daughter, and he has some sort of mental illness issues, and the people on the street start to suspect that maybe he has something to do with these children going missing. So yeah, I'm really excited again to read this, like I am with all the books that I have shown you in this TBR. I have really good vibes about it. I am on a really good kick with reading. Like I said, I'm currently up to date with my reading goal, and I just want to keep that momentum going. So I'm sure this book will definitely aid in that momentum. So that has been my spring TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books that I'm planning to read, and also let me know what you yourself are planning to read over the season of spring. I feel like I personally am at my most productive during spring because the days are getting a bit longer, the weather's getting a bit nicer, and my headspace just kind of gets a good bit better, so I'm able to enjoy more of my hobbies, which the main one is reading. So if you want to keep up with me outside of YouTube, you can always follow me on my Instagram because I update that with what I'm reading quite often. Or you can follow me on TikTok. I now have a TikTok, I know, finally. And over there, I've been really enjoying making content. I've just been doing library book hauls and bookshop tours and that sort of thing. It's basically bookish content that I don't really do on YouTube. And you can always, of course, add me as a friend on Goodreads and Storygraph. And yeah, all my social links are down below. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.